How's it guys, this is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'm going to be going over my final team selection for Game Week 38. And yes, it's going to be my final video of the 2020/2021 FPL season. In this video, like we usually do, going to go over a quick review of Game Week 37 before swiftly moving on to those transfer options and my final team selection going into that Game Week 38 deadline, which is tomorrow afternoon / evening / morning, wherever you guys are around the world. There's a lot of options to go through in terms of those transfers, and because the deadline is so nearly upon us, and because all the teams play at the exact same time, I'm going to be holding off on those confirmed transfers till as late as possible, so that we get as much news, early team news, maybe some injury news comes out of the camps. So we're just going to kind of absorb as much information as possible in that deadline stream coming up tomorrow. But we still do have a lot to talk about in this Game Week 38 team selection, so let's get right into it. So firstly, a little bit of a soppy moment here. I just wanted to say thank you to you guys for all the love, all the support you've shown on this channel and on my Twitter page throughout this 2020/2021 season. I really do appreciate you guys, and hopefully you have enjoyed this FPL season as much as I have. It's been a really unpredictable season, a really crazy one with all these double game weeks, triple game weeks, postponements, and I really do feel sorry for you guys if this was your first season playing FPL, because I can promise you next season is probably going to be a lot more boring, a lot more normal than this season has been. That could actually be quite a good thing for you guys. Maybe a little bit of a change of pace proves quite fruitful in finishing as high as possible. I know this season hasn't really been that good in terms of my own standards for my own overall rank, but hopefully you guys have used it to gain a little bit of knowledge, gain a little bit of insight in how you can create a successful FPL squad. But that's enough of the soppiness. As I mentioned, just thanks to all the love and support you guys continue to show me, and I really do appreciate every single one of you. So going over a quick reminder and giving you guys just a little bit of an update on the streams that will be happening tomorrow. I'm going to be doing the usual deadline with Dayvy live stream. I'm going to try and make it about 1 hour before the deadline, because we probably have a lot of talking points to go over and a lot of news, team news to absorb before that deadline comes about. So the deadline stream will be exactly the same. I then will be doing a reaction stream after the games do finish. I'm thinking about maybe 30 minutes after, but just follow me on Twitter. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing the match of the day challenge. So I won't be watching any football on Sunday afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you guys are around the world, and then I'll be doing my live reaction to the scores, who scored, who got the assists, who got the bonus points, and then finally wrapping up our overall rank that we did finish on. So if you guys are interested in that, I would appreciate you guys dropping by. It provides a little bit of a nice closure to the season, so that we can finally wrap up where we finished and maybe reflect on the mistakes that happened and how we can correct those or fix those going into the next season of FPL. So as I mentioned, please drop by, say hello. I always do appreciate you guys' support, and hopefully I do see you there. So now going on to a quick review of Game Week 37 and how my own squad got on. So we got a final point score of 47. To be honest, it wasn't the best game week, mainly because a lot of the captaincy options didn't really live up to the hype, didn't really perform. So 47 points was actually quite respectable, considering we captained probably the lowest scoring of those major popular captains, which is going to be Harry Kane. So that saw a little bit of a red arrow, not too major there, to just above that 50k mark. And we're going to be going into that final Game Week 38 trying to boost that rank as high as possible and probably hopefully get into that top 50k. So as I mentioned, it hasn't really been the best season for me, considering I finished 22nd, and then in that top 10k about that 5.8k if I do remember. So 50k now, it doesn't look that great, but I mean, as I mentioned, the season's been really unpredictable, and I definitely have learned a lot, and I'm going to be applying those skills that I've learned this season into the upcoming seasons of FPL for the next couple of years. So starting off in goal, we've got Mendy here with 1 point. He did manage to pick up a yellow card towards the end of that game against Leicester, which was quite disappointing, but I mean, it was just 1 point at the end of the day, but he did manage to concede. It was quite a sloppy goal that he actually conceded from that Chelsea defense. Basically, the Chelsea defense lost the ball. The ball was played one time through to Iheanacho, and with the form that Iheanacho is currently on, I wasn't expecting him to miss. So yes, maybe a little bit disappointing that Mendy lost that clean sheet, but it was against the Leicester side that probably would score at the end of the day if you had to do kind of a prediction, but he only ended with the 1 point. We then move on to the defense. Holding was kind of the only defender that didn't really return any points, and I was almost a little bit skeptical about Arsenal, because although they have picked up a little bit of form towards the end of the season, defensively they're still not looking that good. But I must say, against Crystal Palace, I thought that there was a chance of him getting a clean sheet, but that wasn't the case, and he only finished on 2 points. We then move on to Lucas Digne, who managed to get 8 points, 6 points with that clean sheet, and then he got 2 extra bonus points, which will always be taken in terms of my own squad. So he ended on 8 points. But then we had the hero of the game week, think, yes, it was going to be Nat Phillips with a goal, a clean sheet, and I think he got 1 bonus point to boot. I don't really understand how he only got 1 bonus point, because on all the kind of websites and all the tools and stats I looked at, he was rated the best man of the match player for that fixture. So a little bit disappointing with only 1 bonus point, but we will take a 13-point haul from about a 4.1 million defender any day of the week. And I was just kind of happy that Nat Phillips managed to outperform Trent Alexander-Arnold, because he is quite heavily owned in that top 10k, top 100k and overall rankings. The midfield, basically nothing happened in the midfield, unfortunately. We have Greenwood here with 2 points. Missed a couple of sitters, I think, in that game against Fulham, but overall United didn't look that great, and it was only a Cavani, I think, who ended up scoring quite a good wonder goal. Lingard managed to pick up an assist, and I think he also got a bonus point or 2, which I don't really understand how, because he just managed to get an assist, but I'll always take that in my own FPL squad. Then Mo Salah, who was definitely the most popular option this week in terms of that captaincy, with only a 3-point appearance, which was actually really surprising to me, because Liverpool obviously won. I think it was 3-0 against Burnley, so for them to win 3-0 on Mo Salah to not get any attacking returns is quite an occurrence that doesn't happen too often in FPL. And then Harrison, our new transfer in this week, what we did was we took Jota out and we brought in Harrison as just a little bit of a punt over maybe someone like a Rafinha, who's more popular owned, but those two actually equaled each other out. They both scored 3 points, and it was kind of Bamford that I should have brought in, because he, I think, got 12 or 13 points with a goal and an assist. And then finally, Heung-min Son, and I'm going to be talking about Son and Kane together because it was the same fixture. I really disappointed in Spurs and my captaincy options against Aston Villa. I think it was Harry Kane only got about 1 shot the whole game, and I mean, this is Harry Kane we're talking about, one of the best strikers in the Premier League, if not the world. Only getting 1 shot was mighty disappointing, but he was kind of playing that similar spot to what he played previously in the season, where he was more of the assisting threat, which I didn't really understand, because against Aston Villa they needed kind of a man in the box to get on the end of some crosses or something, and unfortunately Heung-min Son wasn't that man as well. So both of them ending on 2 points, which, as I mentioned, mightily disappointing there, because I was really hoping that those Spurs assets paid off, because Harry Kane was definitely a differential captain going into that game week 37. Then finally Calvert-Lewin, yet again Calvert-Lewin's disappointing me. I kind of been one of the worst players to own in my own squad right now. I went on a little bit of a scoring run early on in the season, but I don't even think I owned him, and then as soon as I brought him in, he's continued to blank for the majority of the game week. So quite disappointed in him, especially because Iheanacho is there on the bench with a lovely 6-point appearance after scoring that goal against my keeper Mendy. And then we go on to Cody with just 2 points, and then obviously Lowton with 1 point after conceding 3 goals to Liverpool side that were looking quite strong. So this is kind of the review of game week 37. Another disappointing red arrow, but hopefully in game week 38 we can bounce back on this and get another green arrow to propel us into that top 50k. So now going on to the team selection for game week 38, and kind of the reason why I'm doing this is that I wanted to give you guys a good perspective of what my squad is currently looking at before we talk about those transfers, because I think that kind of context is going to be quite helpful when we look at the transfer options, and I can talk you through why I'm considering maybe taking a hit, because I'm not currently happy with the final starting 11 that I currently have. So starting off in goal, we got Mendy, a similar situation to last game week. It's against an attacking side, and I'm not really that confident in Mendy getting a clean sheet, but the fact of the matter is that Chelsea have to win this game, so I think that Mendy has the potential to get a clean sheet here. And I mean, with Aston Villa, they now have Jack Grealish back, which is really annoying because they just look such a better squad with Jack Grealish in that starting 11. So I mean, the chances for Mendy to get a clean sheet not looking too likely, but because I own Lingard already, and I'm pretty sure Antonio will go on a scoring run against Southampton, I'm not too confident in starting Forster. But I will say about Forster is that I do think he's going to play game week 38, so if you guys do have to start him, I would be quite confident in him getting a start, so you guys can do that if you want. The rest of the defense, I've got Phillips, I've got Lowton, I've got Holding. A pretty budget defense, to be honest, there with Lucas Digne and Cody on the bench there with not great fixtures, to be honest. I mean, Phillips, I'm perfectly comfortable playing Phillips because he's so cheap, and as with the kind of Chelsea, Liverpool have to almost keep a clean sheet to kind of keep that goal difference over Leicester to a maximum. So I think that Phillips has a good chance of getting a clean sheet here, and as we saw last game week, finally Phillips scores a goal. I mean, I've been ranting about this guy on those attacking set pieces. In defense, he's so good heading the ball, but from an attacking point of view is completely miserable. But then what does he do? He goes and scores a goal against Burnley, one of the most good in the air side, so really happy with that. And I mean, maybe against Crystal Palace, he can get on the end of a corner or a free kick and score another one, hopefully. Holding is the player in my defense that I'm not really confident about, and that's because Brighton have actually been looking quite good from a defensive and an attacking point of view. So I honestly think that Arsenal will concede in this fixture, and that's how I want to do a defensive transfer, to get Holding out of my squad and then replace someone like a Lucas Digne with basically whoever I want from a defensive point of view. Luton, I'm perfectly comfortable playing Luton, but I think the Sheffield United game might be a little bit of a blip for Burnley because it is a home fixture for Sheffield United. They're going to want to prove to their fans that they're going to be fine in the Championship next season. So I think that Luton's chance of a clean sheet are still good, but I don't think they're as good if they were to play this fixture a couple of game weeks ago. But with Luton, obviously being a fullback, still has the potential to get in those attacking positions, get those assists, get those goals. He actually had quite a good chance against Liverpool, which I'm surprised that he didn't put away. So I am confident in Luton still, and I can't really see myself playing someone like a Cody or a Digne over Luton, just because I think that fixture against Sheffield United is going to be quite a good one. Going into the midfield, we've gone for a 5 in midfield. We got Greenwood against Wolves. Now Manchester United, I'm pretty sure that they will rotate that squad going into this game week 38 fixture, and the only reason for that is that they are playing the Europa League. I think it's on Wednesday evening. They are playing the final of the Europa League, so I reckon a player like a Bruno Fernandes, a Luke Shaw, those players could be benched. I think that Greenwood has a good chance of starting, but it just depends on whether I actually want him to start, because I think that Wolves game versus Man United is going to be super dead, and I don't think there's going to be too many attacking returns coming out of that one. We then have Lingard against Southampton, and I mean, we've seen Southampton be so defensively poor this season that I do think that a high-flying West Ham side will do quite well against them, and I think Lingard has a good chance of getting some attacking returns. I am kind of jealous of those of you who own Antonio as well, because I think these two are going to link up quite well against Southampton. We then move on to our captain this game week, which is going to be Salah. Now, if you thought that Salah was going to be highly captained last game week, I think this game week is going to be even more highly captained, and that's just because Salah against Crystal Palace for that golden boot, it's almost a no-brainer decision, and if you're not going for Mo Salah, you're either going super differential or you're overthinking it. It's either one of those two. Harrison coming in as our differential from Leeds. Now this West Brom fixture is one that I really want to attack, and you'll see that with the transfers that I am considering this week, because I think it's just going to be an absolute goal fest there at Leeds' stadium, and Leeds are high flying. The fans are going to go mental. I think there's going to be a lot of goals in this one, and I am confident that Harrison could get something. We then move on to the double up of Spurs against Leicester, Son and Kane, and now I'm kind of in two minds about this. One, I think it's going to be a tough game because not only are Spurs playing badly, but Leicester have to win this fixture. But then on the other hand, Leicester's goal difference against Liverpool is quite a large margin, so they almost have to score goals, and that could make this fixture quite an open one. So I'm in two minds here. The one side's telling me to get rid of these Spurs assets because they're playing so badly, and the other side is saying, listen, this game could be quite an open one, and maybe it's worth keeping a Heung-min Son or a Harry Kane. And with Harry Kane chasing that golden boot, I think I would definitely keep him over Son because I just think he's got a better scoring chance. Then the final player on the starting 11 is going to be Iheanacho against the Spurs side, and as I mentioned, Leicester have to win this fixture, and I think that Iheanacho is probably that main goal threat for that Leicester side, and I'm expecting him to hopefully get some goals considering how bad Spurs have been defensively over the past couple game weeks. On the bench, we got Forster against West Ham. As I mentioned, I own a West Ham attacker. I don't own an Aston Villa attacker, so I'm more confident on kind of playing the odds there and hoping that Mendy keeps a clean sheet. And then I've got Calvert-Lewin and Lucas Digne against Man City. Probably the worst fixture in the Premier League at the moment, unless Man City get a red card. If Man City get a red card, I expect Calvert-Lewin to get a hat-trick and Lucas Digne to get 3 assists, because obviously City, when they get that red card, like any squad, you're down to 10 men and you usually struggle on that high press. And the final player, Cody, although I think this game's going to be quite dead, I'm not really confident starting Cody because I think that United could nick a goal here, and that Wolves defense has been absolutely atrocious, so I'm not really confident in Cody getting anything in this fixture. So now going on to the transfer options, which is going to be the main talking point of the video, because this is basically of the utmost importance, getting the transfers right. So currently I only have one free transfer, but I am looking to take a -4 hit, and this -4 hit all depends on Greenwood. So if we get news that Greenwood is going to be starting, I would be almost a little bit confident in starting him, but as I mentioned, I think that United Wolves game is going to be quite dead, so I'm not that confident in starting him, and I think that there are other options, other teams that are going to score more than United, and that's why I'm kind of looking at those squads instead. But if we get news that Greenwood is going to be benched, not going to be starting, maybe not even in the squad, then I definitely will be taking a -4 hit, and that -4 hit will either be to bring in a midfielder or an attacker. We already spoke about kind of taking out Holding and maybe taking out Lucas Digne for another option, and if I do take out Lucas Digne, I can basically afford anyone, and that's the reason why I'm looking to probably use that free transfer on a defensive transfer. So yes, I know that is going to be quite boring considering that it is game week 38. The high ceiling is usually not on the defender's point of view, but the thing about the defenders is we've got two here that are not only defensive but are also attacking, and that's going to be Stuart Dallas, the out of position kind of midfielder right now for Leeds, and then the second player is going to be Trent Alexander-Arnold against a Crystal Palace side that I do think there's a good chance of Liverpool keeping a clean sheet, and also Trent getting an assist, or even a goal. He's been so attacking in the last couple of game weeks. I think he's top for most chances created, so going without Trent Alexander-Arnold against Crystal Palace could be quite a no-brainer, and I have to bring him in my squad. So that would be the move that I am considering. And then obviously I will bench Holding and play Lucas Digne, whoever he does become. And then the second move, I mentioned a midfielder or a forward, and that's kind of the thing I have to take into account. If Greenwood is going to be benched, I can simply just bench him, and then I could take out Calvert-Lewin and bring in another striking option and then move that formation to a 3-4-3, or I could just bring in another midfielder, a straight swap for Greenwood, and then I could consider another option. The other thing I could do is I could just bench Greenwood, and then I could take out Heung-min Son, and the reason why I would have to take out Son is if I do want Sadio Mane. So Sadio Mane, massive differential going into that Crystal Palace fixture, so I am looking at him as a maybe captaincy option if I am looking at it, but I do think Salah is going to be that best option to go for, but I still think that those Mane points could be quite valuable from a differential point of view. The other option I could actually do is just take a -4 and bring in two defenders. We spoke about Dallas and Trent being so attacking out of position. I could take out Lucas Digne and someone like a Connor Cody and just bring in two defenders that I favor and then play a 4-4-2. So there's a lot of options to go through this week, and I'm kind of racking my brain and hoping that maybe some early team news managed to provide some closure to these options and who I would go for. So first off, Lucas Digne is a kind of a no-brainer there. Dallas or Trent Alexander-Arnold are kind of no-brainers, and I would look at them definitely. But then if Son goes out, it's Sadio Mane. If Greenwood goes out, I would potentially look at Rafinha, because as I mentioned, I think that Leeds game is going to be absolutely mental, and I think that Rafinha has a good chance of getting some attacking returns. And if I do take out Calvert-Lewin, there's three options that I've narrowed it down to. I could always go for a Chris Wood. He's also a great option. Burnley face Sheffield United, but I think that game might be a lot closer than maybe people are expecting, and that's why I do favor Antonio Bamford and then also Roberto Firmino. So Firmino is the interesting one there, because I think a lot of people, although Sadio Mane is lowly owned, a lot of people are looking at him instead of Firmino, whereas Firmino has actually been on quite good form, especially last game week when he managed to score a goal. So that's the thing, I am looking at Firmino and potentially looking at him as bringing him in as an option, but that would kind of all depend on if I want to lose a Calvert-Lewin and look at another option. The one thing you guys have to take into account though with these combinations is I can't afford all of them, and all of them aren't realistic. The main reason for this is that I already own two Liverpool options, so if I bring in Firmino, I can't bring in Trent. If I bring in Mane, I can't bring in Trent or Firmino. I'm just using that as an example. And then with the Leeds assets, I only own one Leeds option, that's going to be Harrison, so I could also afford bringing in Dallas and Rafinha, or Dallas and Bamford. And also the price bracket there, if I bring in Dallas, I can afford Firmino to upgrade from Calvert-Lewin. So that's basically that. Keep those 2 points in mind when you are looking at kind of these transfer options and mixing and matching them and deciding who you want to go for. But honestly, I haven't really narrowed it down myself. I think I am potentially favoring this Roberto Firmino move just because I think he's a mega differential, but I really do think going without a Trent Alexander-Arnold could be quite a shot in the foot, considering they are facing Crystal Palace. But now let's go on and look at some ownership stats for those differentials. So what I did was I went over to livefpl.net and went to their top 10k ownership. The reason I went for top 10k, although I'm not in the top 10k, I still use it as kind of a margin to select there, because the top 10k, top 100k, those ownership stats are quite similar usually. That's what I've kind of found. But what I did was I went over to the Liverpool assets and I also looked at the Leeds assets. And the reason for this is that these two sides are the teams and the fixtures that I think have the best upside. So when you look at the Liverpool options, I haven't gone for every single team or player. You guys can go over to this website and do it yourself if you are considering maybe an Allison or someone else and you want to see how highly owned they are. But when you look at the stats here, Trent Alexander-Arnold is owned by 80% of the top 10k, and I'm really expecting that stat to rise, that ownership to rise, because he's such a good option this week, and maybe even a differential captain option if you guys do want to go for it. But when I see the stat, I look at Trent Alexander-Arnold, I look at my rank, I think if I want to kind of make up a lot of space, go for a differential, Trent is not the player I should be looking at because of that high ownership. But then I also am thinking that it's kind of a no-brainer to just get him because he is the most attacking defender that Liverpool do have. When we move on to the midfielders here, Sadio Mane, 2.5% ownership. I'm expecting that to probably double, maybe even 10% ownership, considering that the majority of people are taking punts. But then you see Roberto Firmino's ownership there, which is less than 1%. And that's why I was talking about Firmino and potentially being an option that I look at, because he's just a mega differential that still has quite a high upside if Liverpool do score a couple of goals. When we look at the Leeds assets now, Dallas is less owned than Trent Alexander-Arnold, but you could maybe even argue that Dallas is more attacking than Trent because he is playing out of position. So 66% ownership, quite a big ownership there, but definitely not the same as Trent. So I mean, Dallas could be an option that I do look at. And then we look at those midfielders. Rafinha still under 50% ownership, so definitely still almost differential in my opinion if you are chasing that top 10k. And then obviously Harrison is more differential than him just because of that low 7% ownership that he does have. Bamford's one of those interesting ones for me. I actually thought that Bamford was quite a lot higher owned than he actually is, and he's only owned by about 40% of people. Now, while 40% could be quite a lot, you got to think of it in that top 10k slot, and that means about 5k people don't own him, and that could punish them dearly if Bamford manages to score. So just look at these differential options here. I'm kind of trying to use this and deciding if I need to take a massive punt. I think I'm about 7 points off that top 50k, so I almost don't need to go super differential, but I might need 1 or 2 here and there to kind of make up those points to get me as high as possible in those overall ranks. But this is basically a wrap of the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like it and subscribe if you're new and have not subscribed yet. As I mentioned, this is the last video for the 2020/2021 FPL season, but I will be seeing you guys in a deadline stream and reaction stream tomorrow. One thing I also wanted to mention, if you guys have managed to stay till the end of the video, you're probably more of my loyal fans, so I would appreciate any kind of feedback you have on the channel, how you think I could improve the videos, improve the channel, improve my Twitter overall, and just basically feedback on what you guys think of the channel this season. I'm going to be signing off. This is me, Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers. Bye.